Okay, so here we are live once again with another Masters of the Universe Origins unboxing, and this is Snakeface, most gruesome of the Snake Men warriors. If we look at the picture on the back here, we can see that Snakeface is rushing at Mandadar, no, not Mandadar, Extendar and Prince Adam. He's flanked by Squeeze and King Hiss, and he's turned Prince Adam and Extendar into stone. Snakeface's evil, enchanted gaze turns his enemies into stone statues. Modernizing and celebrating the original 80s Masters of the Universe figures, Rise of the Snake Men. The dreaded Snake Men have arisen from the darkest depths of Snake Mountain. King Hiss and his repulsive reptiles have vowed to destroy He-Man and his heroic warriors, as well as Sunman and the rulers of the sun. Will Eternia fall to the slithering swarm? So we got the cross-cell artwork here with Snake Face, Snake Tila, Snake Trooper, Dragon Blaster Skeletor. Don't worry, he's coming. The 2000X version of King Randor, and Slamurai, which is a figure I'd really like to have. But unfortunately, the distribution was horrible on these figures around my area. And I only recently, this is a figure, I believe, from what 2022? Yeah, copyright 2022, just now showed up at my local Target. Been popping up at Targets all over the place. That's also where I got Dragon Blaster Skeletor, who I'm guessing is the assortment mate for this guy in the deluxe line. Remove head. You know, I knew that this guy was inspired by Medusa, but removing the head, you know, like aren't we laying it on a little thick there, guys? But no, you remove the head to replace it with the snake strike head. So like when he turns you into a snake, the snakes pop out of his eyes and pop out of his ears, and his long tongue, like a snake, sticks out. And on the original figure, like it was an action feature where like I never had the original figure, but I think like you pressed a button or twisted a knob or squeezed his legs or something, and all this stuff would pop out of his face. And but they don't really do that with these figures because they don't want to mess too much with the articulation. So instead, he just gets a swappable head, and then pull snakes out of body. So he's got two snakes that come out of his chest too, but you have to manually fold them down. Captain Half Fun says, "Nice, I'm down for tomorrow. I got my studio ready. Awesome. Well, I haven't been called into work yet, so if I don't get called into work, that should probably be around 9 o'clock my time. I figure I'll probably be free because I'm probably going to go visit my parents for a little bit on Sunday. But I haven't actually talked to my mom about that, so I need to call her and make sure that's fine. But I did want to stop by and see her. And I believe since I won't be doing a video tomorrow, other than when I do the live stream, I won't do one of my own videos, I should say. I'll go ahead and say it. Tomorrow is my sister's birthday, so happy birthday to my sisters, Sarah and Valerie. They're twins, so they were both born on March 9th. So happy birthday to them. Like a lot of times when people would ask me if I have any brothers or sisters, I'd say I have three sisters, and they'd say, "Well, how old are they?" And I'd be like, "Well, they're 7 or however old they were at the time." And they'd be like, "All three of them?" I'm like, "Yeah, well, two of them are twins." So like, yeah, two sisters by my mom and one sister by my dad, three sisters all together, and they were all born in the same year, oddly enough. So anyway, Captain Half Fun says toy companies have steered away from toyetic features these days. Yeah, and that's unfortunate. I think with a line like Masters of the Universe, where like the original line was of course like built all around with crazy action features. Like this is I haven't had any Snake Men until recently. This is actually one of the first Snake Men that I got, and I've got them both recently. And the other one was actually this guy, Cobra Khan, and I got him loose, so he's not going to have an unboxing video. But I did want to talk about him a little bit, at least in a video. So he's going to get talked about in the Snake Men video with the other Snake Men character that I got. But of course, you remember the original Cobra Khan. You pulled his head out, you filled his body with water, and then you pressed down on it, and it was like a perfume spray of water. And this guy doesn't have that. He just had like a little plastic spray thing that fit in there to represent that. And honestly, I could have done without the swappable head gimmick and the added articulation of the head, which honestly is nice. But I would have, and I think they could have very easily done it without interfering with like any of the rest of the articulation on this figure. Fit the spray feature on there, and I think that would have been really cool. Thankfully, I still have my original Cobra Khan, so at least I'm not missing that. So yeah, 2 Snake Men that I have now, and I've got Lord Grasp pre-ordered on Big Bad Toy Store because I guess he's out of stock and they're doing a restock of them. But hopefully, I'll be getting Lord Grasp in soon. I always thought that was a really cool looking character, even though he's kind of a hodgepodge of reused parts. But I think it just comes together nicely. He's just so cool looking. Anyway, let's go ahead and get Snake Face opened up here. And this is, I believe, I haven't read this comic before. This looks like it's a new comic for these guys, and it's probably going to be the same comic that comes with Dragon Blaster Skeletor. So we'll go ahead and read it. All right, so King Randor's castle, a boisterous stronghold, usually filled with activity. Today, the court's halls know only stone cold silence, and you see Randor surrounded by various snake men, and I'm assuming even the guard there is probably the snake man infiltrator. And Snake Face is sitting on the throne saying, "Foolish pawns, long have I bided my time. When King Hiss led a band of his vipers into the heart of King Randor's castle, I struck." And then he turns Randor into stone. Gasp. "Now gaze upon the true ruler, King Snakeface." And he puts on Randor's crown. He also looks kind of goofy holding it. And then he's got the snake's serpent staff. And then one of the sandworms from Dune, he taps on the ground and summons a sandworm forth. And Medusa is there, which I think that's a figure that Origins actually made, but she's expensive now. So reveal your true form. And then she turns into like Medusa looking character. And she says, "Excellent, Snake Face. You've vanquished allies and enemies alike. Self-interest, the true way of the Viper." So, in time, Snake Goddess began to build Snake Face his own army and more. And we see the snake troopers there. And she's got a cosmic egg. And she says, "Behold, the cosmic egg." The cosmic egg, an awesome artifact that holds ultimate power. Countless snake lords predating King Hiss have sought it. When hatched, the egg unveils the black crystal of power, imbuing its holder with omnipotence and the ability to control all life. That's one of the things I like about these mini comics is they don't shy away from the $3 words. They got plenty of vocabulary words for the youngins that'd be reading this. And then we have Dragon Blaster Skeletor riding along in a land shark, and he's flanked by Beastman and Stinkor in their own land sharks. And Beastman says, "Howdy, I'm home," because apparently he's a big fan of 1950s sitcoms. And then Skeletor says, "No one dares rule Eternia Bataille, Skeletor!" And then you see Beastman and Stinkor going up against the Snake Goddess. And then Skeletor actually deflects her beams back and turns her into stone. And Snakeface is like, "No!" I tell you what, if I had a reptilian hottie like that and Skeletor turned her into stone, I'd be upset about it too. I'm just saying. And then the egg starts to glow and it hatches and shatters and crystals start growing out of it. And Snakeface says, "The black crystal of power, seize it at all costs." And then Skeletor has his dragon, and he says, "Dragon Blaster, steal the crystal for your master." And Dragon Blaster says, "Scraw." And then He-Man shows up, dropping down out of the Talon Fighter, and he grabs a hold of the crystal and says, "I have the ultimate power. Now, Snakeface, let your curse be undone." And you see him glowing with this kind of black light-looking energy. And then purple lightning starts to emanate out of him, and it says, in a single swift act, heroes and snake men alike were set free from their stone prisons. And then Randor and Man at Arms are back to normal. So I guess that was Man at Arms and not just a random guard, but it's a tiny little picture, so I had a hard time telling. And then Randor says, He-Man, now that you possess ultimate power, what will you do with it? We know what He-Man's going to do with it, right? And then He-Man says, relinquish it, for those with absolute power can only be corrupted. And he shatters the black crystal. And then him and Man at Arms and King Randor stand around awkwardly with no dialogue whatsoever. And then Medusa's like a spirit in the background, and she says, I thought you were a true king, Snakeface. Lo, I was wrong. And then Skeletor says, I could have told you that. Boom. So yeah, that was a pretty good comic. That's like not the best one, but not the worst one, certainly. It was a fun, entertaining adventure, I think. So now that that's out of the way, let's move on to our action figure and all of his accessories and accoutrements. And here is Snakeface himself, and he is indeed a gruesome-looking fellow. So let's go ahead and get him out of the package. He's got some rubber tabs around his ankles here. And Snakeface, I believe, is mostly original parts. There are very few reused parts on this guy that I can notice. And it looks like, we got some around the wrists. And unfortunately, if you see the way the snakes are wrapped around his wrist, that means that the rubber band is kind of tucked in between there. I'm going to have a little bit of a difficult time getting it out. You know that this blade needs to be changed out because it actually does a better job of pulling it through the holes that it's punched into than it does actually cutting through it. And here is Snakeface out of the package. Now, from what I understand, when I said this character was inspired by Medusa, that originally it was indeed intended that it would be a female character with Medusa-like powers, but I guess they decided that male action figures sell better, so just make him into a dude, but he still has like Gorgon-like abilities. So you see he's got like just bright red eyes. He's got a helmet with snakes. I guess are actually growing out of his head, but kind of slithering through the holes in the helmet. You can see where there's like a space there where like they could be slithering through helmets. It's a helmet shaped kind of vaguely like Man at Arms' helmet. These are all new arms, all new torso, I believe an all new pelvis, and all new boots and feet, which are kind of flipper-like feet. I haven't seen these feet before anyway. He might share them with another one of the snake men that I don't have, but they don't look too familiar with me. But the legs are definitely, your standard Masters of the Universe legs. You can see they're identical to the ones used on Cobra Khan here. Oh yeah, something else I should point out about Cobra Khan is the original Cobra Khan used Skeletor arms, aka the reptile arms, but this one, the forearms are actually the ones from Buzz-Off, oddly enough. So it does give him a little bit more texture there, but it's that kind of like insect spines, like the fur you see on an insect. It's the same detail that's actually on the original. If I still have Clawful over here, I can show you on the original Buzz-Off arms, but you can see it's much sharper on the newer figure than it is on the older figure. So the molding has gotten better in the years since I knocked over Snake Man at Arms. But yeah, I believe that the arms with the snakes on them, those are all new, and the torso is all new, of course, and the pelvis. So it's really just the legs down to the boots and the hands that are reused from other figures. So let's go ahead and do as we are instructed on the package, and we're going to swap out his head so that he can have his snake attack head, since he is the most gruesome of the snake men. So we should display him in his most gruesome form with his snakes poking out. So since we have poor old Trapjaw here, he can be the guy who gets zapped by Snakeface, and now we pretend he turns to stone, just like one of my favorite ELO songs. So let's go ahead and talk about his articulation. So Snakehead can look up about that far. He's kind of hindered by this sort of rat tail he has here, or snake tail. I guess it's the tails of the snakes that are on his head poking out under his helmet. They're not the same color. They're actually the same color as the rest of his helmet, not the same color as the snakes, which are kind of a lighter green that fades into gray. So really, that should be like the same shade of gray as like the rest of his skin, I guess. But it is part of his head, I suppose. So and then he's got the almost forgot the snakes that we have to manually flip down out of his torso. So there he's got those that pop out of his armor, and he's got actually even more snakes underneath there. So I guess he's got as many snakes as he needs. Of course, his head rotates all the way around, but because of the stuff sticking out of him, he's got a low chin and that rat tail thing. So it does kind of bump into the trapezius a bit. So he rotates all the way around to the arms, rotate all around the shoulders, of course, and they move up about that far. So not too bad. He's got a single joint of articulation at the elbow. That's about as far as that bends, and then of course that rotates all the way around. Wrist rotates all the way around and has a horizontal hinge, so it moves back and forth like so. And then of course Snake Face rotates all the way around to the waist. By the way, this is a Master of the Universe Origins figure, so the pieces do detach, and you can swap them around and make whatever kind of weird combinations of these figures you want to. So Snake Face can kick up about that far, which is, I think, slightly less even than He-Man figures usually can kick up. They are very muscle bound, these Origins figures. And then his single joint of articulation at the knee, that's about how far that bends, and of course that rotates all the way around. It's a little stiff on mine, but it still makes it. And then boot rotates all the way around. Foot can point down about that far and point up about that far, and of course rotates all the way around. So let's talk about some more of Snake Face's accessories, because he does have a few more. And first of all is his unique accessory, which is the shield. Now later on in the original vintage Masters line, they got into using a lot of shields on their characters, because a lot of like parents groups were whining about He-Man being too violent, which is absurd, because you can go onto YouTube right now and find episodes of Masters of the Universe to watch for free. And if you do this and you're not familiar with the show, you will find that He-Man in the Masters of the Universe was probably the least violent superhero cartoon ever made. So, but parents just thought it was violent because, well, not all parents, but these whiny parents groups, because they had weapons, because they had swords. And what do you do with swords? You stab, you hack off limbs, you do that kind of stuff. So like they just assumed it's a violent show when it really was not violent at all. So I don't have much respect for whiny parents groups that try to keep kids from having fun, basically, by taking away shows that we really liked. It's if you don't want your kids watching it, fine, change the channel. Nobody's forcing you to let your kids watch a cartoon show that is actually not that violent at all. So just stop whining about it. I don't have much respect for that. The TV is not your kid's babysitter, and it's your responsibility as parents to make sure that your kids are watching stuff that you approve of. You need to be the one. You need to be the one who's determining what your kids do and don't watch. And don't try to make the government take away the shows that my mom already decided it was okay for me to watch He-Man. Probably because she actually watched it and realized it wasn't violent at all. Probably because my mother actually took an interest in things that I was doing as a kid. So I had a good mom. I had a much better mom, I think, than a lot of people had. And frankly, she deserved a better son than me. I'm just gonna say that right now. But shout out to my mom. Shout out to all good mothers everywhere. You are loved and appreciated. So anyway, here he is with his weapon. So he's got this shield, which, like I said, that's his unique accessory. The other accessory he has is the snake staff, and that was one that came with a lot of different Snake Men figures. Most Snake Men, I know Squeeze did not come with a snake staff. He just came with like a kind of weird purple snake thing, I think. But most of the other Snake Men had this snake staff, much like the Horde's crossbow. It was a unifying accessory that every character in this faction tended to have, uh, or at least most figures in the faction tended to have. But I think it's at least a little bit better accessory than the Horde's crossbow, just in my personal opinion. Like you could use this for a lot of stuff, like a quarterstaff or an actual snake on a stick, or some kind of magic staff or whatever you want to use it for. It's just a cool looking weapon. I like it. So anyway, Snake Face is a pretty cool figure, and he's definitely worth picking up. However, I gotta say, I do think he's like a little bit more of a niche figure than what we usually get as a deluxe figure. Most of the deluxe figures we've gotten so far have, like in the original line, all the deluxe figures were He-Man and Skeletor practically. And in the Origins line, most of our deluxe figures have been He-Man and Skeletor. Now, you've had a few characters that I would say were probably fan favorites that got the deluxe treatment, say Ram Man or Clamp Champ. These are guys that I think most people would consider to be, if not like the very top tier of Masters of the Universe, at least like the top half of the second tier for those guys. But Snakeface is a little bit more of an obscure character from probably the most obscure faction from the original Masters of the Universe line. And while he is one of the cooler Snake Men, I feel like, at the end of the day, he's still like, kind of a minor Snake Man, and really isn't going to be like as important of a character for most people, I think. But I think he's pretty cool, and I'm glad I picked him up. So that's pretty much everything I think I have to say about Snake Face. But what do you have to say about Snake Face? Is this a figure that you consider an essential character to have in your collection? Maybe you just think he's a cool looking character anyway, and you'd like to have him. Maybe you think Snake Face is dumb, and all the Snake Men are dumb, and I'm dumb for buying this thing. I think that's a little harsh, but it's an opinion that could be had. So let me know in the comments what you think about Snake Face. Is he going to be a character that you add to your Masters of the Universe, or is he one that you're going to pass on? Anyway, I got a lot more Masters of the Universe stuff to talk about next week, because next week I have not one, not two, not three, but 4 different action figures of Skeletor to talk about. Now, Skeletor is my favorite character in the Masters of the Universe mythos. He's one of my favorite villains ever to exist in anything. He's a guy who's up there with Doctor Doom and Darth Vader and Count Dracula. Like, he might be the guy who occupies the 4th spot on my Mount Rushmore of villainy. It's Skeletor or Cobra Commander 1. I love both of those guys. But before we do that, we do have the sketchbook versions of Hordak and Grizzlor to discuss. So that's going to be my next episode, I think, in terms of our He-Man episodes. And then we're gonna go whole hog on Skeletor and 4 new Skeletor figures that I have put down for your viewing pleasure. And so I've got the before mentioned Dragon Blaster Skeletor. I've got Terror Claws Skeletor. I have the crossover with Stranger Things, so Skeletor and the Demogorgon, and this guy here, which I've been looking forward to opening, the Masterverse Vintage Collection Skeletor, and he is an awesome looking figure. So I am excited about that. And if you want to make sure you don't miss any of the excitement, make sure you like and subscribe. All the fun YouTube stuff down below. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think about Snake Face, both the figure and the character in general. And we will talk to you next time. Bye.